Hi guys, so it has been rumoured that Anthony Joshua has some really good sparring going into his rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr. Not only is Derek Chisora rumoured to be in camp with Anthony Joshua, there is another guy who has revealed he is training in Sheffield, where Anthony Joshua is basing his training camp for the rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr. Now, the name of the guy is Timothy Motton, and he is an American fighter. He's 5-0 with 2 KOs, and he's very similar to Andy Ruiz Jr. He's very fast, very small, and he is really good at rolling and riding shots. There is plenty of footage on social media of him working the pads with his coach Angel Fernandez. And when quizzed on the subject, this is what Motton had to say. We will go straight back into camp and then it's back into the dead zone. We were told that they might send us back here again for another one, depending on how we perform for camp. If we do good, then we will be back here. So that could indicate that Motton is training with Anthony Joshua and providing good sparring also, because as I said, he is very similar to Andy Ruiz Jr. In fact, it's quite uncanny how similar he is. He's very fast, and as I said, he rolls shots really well. I've seen him working the pads, and there is plenty of footage out there on social media. So you can see him working the pads, and he has a very similar style to Andy Ruiz Jr. Now obviously he's a 5-0 novice, he's not Andy Ruiz Jr., who is at world level, but this kind of sparring is what Anthony Joshua needs. Someone like Derek Chisora and this guy. Because you have the pressure from Derek Chisora, who will not allow AJ to take a moment off in any round. And then you have this guy who is very fast and replicates the style of Andy Ruiz Jr. really, really well. So Anthony Joshua clearly has drafted in some quality sparring this time for Andy Ruiz Jr. Whereas last time, it was probably a little bit more difficult considering the time he had to prepare for Andy Ruiz Jr. And I know that Andy Ruiz Jr. had exactly the same amount of time to prepare for AJ, but it's kind of different in some ways because Anthony Joshua was preparing for a completely different opponent, whereas Andy Ruiz Jr. had a whole camp and then a fight against Dimitrenko, who was a taller guy, and Andy Ruiz Jr. won that quite comfortably. So it was good preparation for Andy Ruiz Jr. going into the fight with Anthony Joshua. And Andy Ruiz has always been used to fighting taller opponents, whereas Anthony Joshua normally fights people his similar height or maybe a little bit taller. So Anthony Joshua wasn't ready for Andy Ruiz Jr. And Anthony Joshua probably couldn't find quality sparring going into that first fight because he was preparing for Jarrell Miller, who was far more physically imposing, and probably rather than work on the inside and fight on the inside throwing punches, he would probably grab hold of Anthony Joshua and try and grapple with him. So Anthony Joshua was probably preparing for that kind of inside game, not inside fighting, like Andy Ruiz Jr. brought to the first fight. Now, it seems that this Timothy Motton will replicate this in sparring because he has a very similar style to Andy Ruiz Jr. And Eddie Hearn did recently comment on Anthony Joshua's sparring in an interview. This is what he had to say. It's madness. There's 8 weeks to go, and he's been in camp for 4 weeks already. A lot of early sparring now is replicating the style of Ruiz. Last time, we had probably 3 weeks of sparring, and it was tough to find a guy like Ruiz because there aren't many like him. Small, a little bit chubby, fast hands, and really good on the inside. Now we've replicated that. I feel like the preparation is going to be great. So perhaps when Eddie Hearn says we have replicated it properly and perfectly, maybe he is talking about Timothy Motton, because it seems in every shape and form, Timothy Motton replicates Andy Ruiz Jr. aesthetically. For his speed also, he seems to make himself small, tuck up and get on the inside to fight because he was fighting very close to the guy who was working the pads and working in those body shots. So perhaps that is what he is bringing to sparring for Anthony Joshua. Yes, he does replicate the style of Andy Ruiz Jr. perfectly, and I believe this is the guy Eddie Hearn is talking about when he says we've replicated Andy Ruiz Jr.'s style perfectly for this camp. As I said, it's uncanny how similar this guy is to Andy Ruiz Jr. And I believe you could scarcely find better sparring or someone to replicate Andy Ruiz Jr. than this guy. Very fast, makes himself small, difficult to hit, and he rolls them shots very well using a lateral movement, which Andy Ruiz Jr. was doing. And possibly, we haven't seen any sparring, but it would be interesting to see how this guy counterpunches also, because that is what Andy Ruiz Jr. was doing in the first fight. Andy Ruiz Jr. was taking punishment from Anthony Joshua and dishing it straight back, especially when he got knocked down. He got straight back up and was willing to take a few punches to land a few of his own. And Andy Ruiz Jr. has a great chin, and it held up against Anthony Joshua. But this time around, Anthony Joshua seems to have ample time to prepare, and he has found himself some good sparring, especially with Derek Chisora coming into camp also. He's not going to find much better sparring than Derek Chisora for that pressure fighting game. And this little guy, Timothy Martin, seems to be replicating the style of Andy Ruiz Jr. very, very well. So Anthony Joshua has plenty of time to prepare for Andy Ruiz Jr. and he has great sparring also to prepare for him. So this is going to be an evenly fought fight, a 50-50 fight on December 7th. Who will come out on top? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, let me know what you think of Anthony Joshua's possible new sparring partner. I say possible because it hasn't been confirmed, but I mean, it is highly likely this is a guy that Anthony Joshua is sparring. But anyway, drop your thoughts in the comments below, click the thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Also guys, go and check us out on other social medias, Instagram and Twitter. Links in the description. Thank you guys.